I want to start off with the first question, Dansby. Give me your best youth sports moment.
Best youth sports moment. Oh, there's a lot. I mean, shoot, I played, you know, all stars and travel ball for a long time. I even played some AAU basketball growing up. Uh, in the summers. I would say when I was 18, we won like that big wood bat tournament. That East Cobb has. I think. Was it? Is it Legacy? What's the place up in
Lake
Lake
Point.
Point.
Lake
Yeah.
Point.
yeah, Lake Point. Lake Point. They host it now, but I mean we won that thing. There was probably 100 and something teams there, and we won that, and that was definitely a cool moment. I think anytime you can win, obviously the real World Series is the one that we won in 2021, but anytime that you can win a legitimate tournament that's that big is a pretty special moment.
So what was your favorite sports growing up, Dansby? I'd read that you're a pretty good basketball player back in the day.
Yeah, I don't want to don't need to feed my ego. Mal would probably say I don't need to feed my ego anymore with that. But I was a good basketball player. Like I played basketball the same way I kind of played baseball. Like was always in the right spot, knew all the plays. I could really shoot. That was like my like one big gift was I could really shoot. But like I would block out to rebound. I just did all the little things right that turned me into a pretty good basketball player. I ended up I think averaging like 14 or 15 points a game my senior year. So I would say basketball is my favorite sport to play growing up. There's just something about it. I don't know if it's because there's so much action or the satisfaction of shooting a basketball and watching it go in. There's just something about that. It's always kind of been like my like peaceful thing to do. Like if I'm ever like kind of in a rut, I just go shoot basketball. Like that's just kind of like gets me out of my own way. But I would definitely say basketball is my favorite growing up. I'm probably a few inches too short to have made a career out of it, and yeah. So, but baseball. I mean, I enjoyed baseball too. I didn't really play football. Didn't really have the time and never really like truly cared to get into it. It's kind of a little bit of a regret of mine, but uh, yeah, I think it's important to
I was going to
play.
say, man, you've been a good little wide receiver out there. I'll tell you that.
Hey man, I think so too. Now, like I said, I know my ego doesn't need to be boosted anymore, but I think I could have been
100%.
pretty good.
So you won a couple championships at Marietta, right, in basketball?
We won. We won region. I think one of my years. We made it to state all 3 years that I played on the varsity team. I mean, we were pretty good. I felt like we probably underachieved a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I say that about pretty much every team I'm on if we don't win the whole thing. But uh, I think that we underachieved some. But I mean, we definitely had some good players. And I wish it's one of those things that like I really wish I could go back and do that over again, just because it was so much fun.
So, Dansby, youth sports today, the culture is kind of going crazy. And, for a kid to try to play a whole bunch of sports at a high level, even at a young age, is getting tougher and tougher today. Can you kind of walk us through your journey and, when you were playing what? And as you got older, how you focused more and more on baseball. Can you kind of walk us through that?
So yeah, I mean, in short and simple, I mean, I didn't focus on baseball fully until I was in college. I every year since I was probably six, I would have baseball season and then I would have basketball season, and my parents would always have to like drag me off the couch because I would try and be stubborn and be like, I'm not playing baseball this year, and they're like, because I like got so invested in basketball, and then when I was playing baseball, I'd be like, I'm not playing basketball. Like I just want to do this, one thing. And because just like my investment level and like care level was so high for what I was doing at the time that, they had to kind of be like, no, son, like you're going to go play basketball, or no, you're going to go play baseball. So I played obviously competitive, baseball and basketball all the way through high school. Um, there was one year that I seriously considered not playing basketball. I think it was maybe going into my junior year just to focus on baseball, and then I kind of came to the realization that that wasn't, the path that was for me. Like basketball was too important to me to just, push it aside. And I'm very thankful that I made that decision because I think, just for me, the cross training aspect of, playing multiple sports is huge. The competing in, big environments, because if we're going to be honest, like, it's really hard to play big time baseball games in high school. Like it's kind of a tough, atmosphere to do that in. Like I know Parkview, Frenchie, where you went, they do a pretty good job. Like kids come out to the games, like I
Yeah.
feel like Parkview kind of, but at Marietta and a lot of schools really in Cobb County, like it wasn't really a big deal. Like baseball was obviously a big deal, but not in terms of student attendance. Whereas like football and basketball always had like the more ruckus
Students
crowds
came
and like
out. Right.
and I was the only white kid on the team too, so like it was very easy for me to be like the one that would get picked on by everyone in the stands. So basketball really really helped me in terms of like preparing me to play in the SEC, prepared me to play in front of big crowds and things like that. Even just like the pressure packed moments of like making free throws or whatever, when the game's on the line is a lot more common than maybe you having like, the big at bat in the ninth, so, I give a lot of credit to my performance and like my performance in front of crowds due to high school basketball. And I just hate that sports, especially like youth sports, have tried to specialize kids earlier and earlier and earlier. And there are certain instances. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a one size fits all, but there are certain instances where I see like and understand the specialization of certain things. There are certain, I feel like certain of the basketball guys just based on like pure size. It's like, yeah, basketball makes sense, and
Or
to
if you're
kind of really train
330
the eggs in
pounds,
that basket. Say what?
if you're 330 pounds, you're probably going to be a lineman.
Right. So, but for the 98% of us, I feel like playing multiple sports is the way to go. And at some point, like yes, you may have to give up one, like I did for basketball. But I feel like that you should continue, pursuing both or three or however many you're playing until it truly is time to like put it aside.
Yeah. Dansby, you've talked to me before about your mom and dad and how instrumental they were, for you as a kid growing up. Obviously, still you got a great relationship, but talk about them, the sacrifices, they made and kind of what a routine day looked for you growing up.
Yeah, shoot, they're the reason I'm here. That and the grace of God, but they were just so instrumental in like in developing like discipline and hard work, the respect, all the things that I really feel are very important values, which unfortunately like those even to some extent are starting to like go out the window some, and there was no exceptions, there was no excuses. I feel like the easiest way to sum up how my parents raised me was you work hard for what you want and you respect people in the process of doing it. And so they were always okay with me struggling or failing if my effort was in the right place. The only time my dad would ever really get onto my case is if he felt like I didn't like compete in the game that day. And he would let me know about it, but it was never anything like vicious. It was just like, you know, making sure I understood that my effort level or compete level was embarrassing myself, and obviously like those can be tough conversations to have with your kid, but I felt like, at the time, obviously, you know, at the time it was not hurtful for me to hear that, but it's hard to hear that you've embarrassed your family or whatever the case may be because you haven't, competed hard. But now that I look back at it, it was 100% the truth because, no matter how you feel, no matter how well you're playing, you can always like compete and compete to win. There's a lot of people that count on you to do your job correctly. And even if it's, 14-year-old, it's eighth grade basketball, like it's just the principle that there are people that count on you and you have to show up every day to compete in order to, be there for the other people around you. It's not about you, and so those I felt like were great lessons that they taught me and instilled in me. And then, this one's always, I feel like, the fine line, of like having your kids enjoy playing, but also understand the importance of winning. And I feel like that they did just such a really good job of helping me understand that, like, you play to win. Like, you're playing a game to win. You're not just playing a game to play a game. But they would also, they understood certain circumstances, and like, I was a competitive kid. Okay. Like if we ever lost, like I cried, like I was that kid because I was just wanted to win so bad. And, they kind of like let me take the lead on that a little bit because I was so competitive. I've always been competitive. Like I'm pretty sure I came off the womb competitive. So they just kind of fueled that a little bit. And also helped me understand that losing happens and that teaches you, things going forward. It's not just, it's not like, oh, it's okay you lost. It's like, listen, it's not okay. Yes, it's okay because losing happens, but we can't get complacent in saying it's okay if we lose.
Dansby, at what age did you kind of figure out, hey, I'm pretty good at this baseball thing? Like, at what age did you stand out in Little League or in travel? And then at what age did you think, hey, I may have a chance to play in college at least?
Oof. So growing up, I felt like I was always super little. Like I was undersized compared to all the other kids. They were hitting all the homers or whatever. But I was a lot better at the game of baseball than all my peers. So growing up, I felt like I was really, really good, and all I ever wanted to do was play in the big leagues. Now, as I got to like the 13, 14, 15, even 16-year-old ages, that was when like size actually became a factor, and the fact that I was still a little bit undersized didn't like bode well for me because all the people around me were like, they were throwing harder, they were able to hit the ball harder, they were just bigger, better, faster, and stronger. So in those years, I had to like really, really rely on understanding how to play the game better, do the little things right. And then when I got to age 17, I felt like James Beavers, who coaches for the East Cobb Yankees, he kind of like took me under his wing and really, really believed in me. And, my dad obviously believed in me as well, but my dad believed in me in terms of like, oh, you could play at like Troy where he played at, and I remember James Beavers looked at him and was like, you just have no idea. Like you know your son and all his flaws. That's why you look at him in this kind of way. He's like, let me make some phone calls, and next thing you know, like I felt like I really, really just kind of like took off my junior and senior year going into college, and that's why I really felt like I kind of have a chance to, be a pretty good baseball player.
So, Dansby, when you say you took off, define that for us. I mean, did your hitting go next level? Did your arm get a lot stronger? What was that like?
Yeah, I just felt like I got to that age where, like, basically puberty was like starting to settle in a little bit, and I was starting to actually grow up a little bit. I started working a lot more consistently on, or in the cage. Even during basketball season, I would go, on weekends and hit and things like that. And it just, like I said, it all just kind of like came together. It was just the knowledge and everything that I had and built up and understanding how to play the game of baseball kind of rolled over into the physical side too. And so I kind of combined the two. And then I was, it was a 17 and 18-year-old team. I was 17. I was one of the younger kids on the team, and just like kind of surprised all of them as well with like just how good I was. Just the things that I would do was a little bit different than how other kids had done it, whether it was like how I'm stealing bases or how I'm, winning games or whatever the case may be. Just kind of led people to be like, this kid's like really good at the game of baseball, which is something I've kind of always prided myself in. Maybe I'm not giving myself as much credit, but I don't feel like I'm like physically as, crazy gifted and talented as a lot of people in the big leagues. But the things that have made me me are like my separating factors, which is like the winning and the leadership and, just playing the actual game of baseball better than other people play it.